2, 1.
All right, this is the introduction into quantum string theory and some applications for it. It's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. We'll start with just start with basic concepts here. One thing I like to use when describing this is my hand, right? One interesting thing that my dad kind of taught me when I was younger, he was like, if you were to dream and you were to find your hand in the dream, then you would be able to realize that you were dreaming and then be able to manifest whatever you want inside your dream. So I like to use my hands to describe this. So what quantum string theory is just in the basics. Obviously, as you know, that our bodies seemingly being a one solid mass of material is actually kind of an illusion. All matter, in fact, that we interact with, the fact that it is solid is an illusion. So if you were to zoom in to it, and the smaller and smaller and smaller you get, we're gonna take like this pen for an example, right? The pen is seemingly solid, but then the closer you zoom in to it, right, you'll notice that it's made up of atoms. Okay, right? So we're going to zoom in all the way to the pen, right? And of course, probably don't have the structures right, but there, it's going to look more kind of like this, right? Now there's space in between the atoms, but and then of course, if you guys aren't aware of what an atom looks like, an atom kind of very, very, very basic. You have a proton and a neutron, right, that are bonded together. Then you have electrons spinning around it. In between the atoms, there's kind of like an infinite amount of space in between in the quantum realm. So we're just made up of trillions upon trillions of atoms. I know they have about a range of what it is scientifically, but it's a pretty large number of these tiny little particulates that make up the whole. Now, when we're getting into quantum string theory, you have your atom. You know what? I'll make it bigger. Okay, and then for reference, this is going to represent a single atom, right? Just a circle with a dot in it. We'll use that as a reference point. Now, each atom in our body has all atoms everywhere, right, in the quantum realm have these little tiny like strings. All right, so if you were to imagine we're going to focus first on the singular string, right? Okay, so you have the atom here, right? Now you'd imagine these are the strings that I'm talking about, right? They're invisible. Now that would be the determined path of that particular atom, right? So obviously, if the atom is stationary, you'll see a single line like this. So like asteroids floating through space, inanimate objects just sitting there, right? They're just going to have a pretty much a straight line, right? The second that now we'll go to the hand here, you start waving your hand around, right? So this means that so let's say hand is stationary, okay? Now I start moving my hand around, and we're going to focus on, let's say, the center of the palm, right, is where we're focusing on, right there. We can imagine that I'm wiggling my hand around. So what's happening in a sense is, oops, this, right? The past line is stationary, and then the future line, because I haven't even got to that point yet. The atom goes along this trajectory, right? It's already almost planned out that I'm going to move it, right? My brain made the decision that I'm going to wave my hand, right? Therefore, the future string is waving, right? But I haven't got to that point yet. I'm still stationary. Now we're coming up to the moment in time. So the string actually represents a moment in time. This would be the past, and this being the future. Okay, so in the past, my hand was straight stationary. In the future, it's waving. I'm right at the point before moving the hand. So now, this is kind of where, this is just basics, you know. So in the way the strings work, the strings go through time, right? It's the quantum matrix through time, and it's how our reality works. You know, there's ways. There's like these strings like intertangle all of us, but we'll get to that in a second and see where to go from here. Now, to help me focus on a particular string, right? Let's say, okay, you take your hand, right, and give it a little, just give it a little scratch like that, you know, a little scratch right your hand, and now take your finger like that and focus on the very, very tip of your finger. This is just like a very simple exercise, right? Kind of focus right on the tip of the finger. So obviously it's not to scale here. So you're gonna imagine kind of like that. There's the tip of your finger, and you have this tiny little atom sitting there. And you can just, you want to focus on its movement, right? You want to focus on its past movement. So you can see the string that came from the hand. So you want to remember the past movement and then focus on the future movement, right? So, you know, just keep it stationary and imagine just like, you know, the line, and then blow it, it's gone, you know. So there was a future thing. Now we're going to get into, on that tiny when it comes to future possibilities, now we're going to get into, gotta forgive me for, I'm actually a pretty good artist. I'm not going to spend all day drawing up diagrams, so you'll have to forgive me for my crude etchings here. Okay, so now here's the past, right? You have that particle at the tip of your finger, right? And it's stationary for now. Now, if you were to look into the future of said particle, there is actually an infinite number of possibilities in the direction that it can go. Completely infinite. That's, you know, that choice is up to you in which direction you want that particulate to go, right? Once it's detached from yourself, it's kind of chaotic, but as it's just attached to yourself, you can determine the path that it's going to take, up, down, left, right, you know. So our minds are already predetermining which direction that is going to take. It gets into what I've come to understand, the actual structure of uh, the universe, and kind of like what it was shown to me, how um, how we experience everything. So if you were to imagine that if source creation was a all-knowing, an infinitely all-knowing uh, being, except for one small factor, right? And that small factor is uh, it doesn't know what it is, right? So anyway, sorry, it doesn't know what it is, right? So what would an all-knowing being that doesn't know what it is do? It's just going to keep on creating and creating and creating. So it creates an infinite amount of possibilities that exist simultaneously, right? So as I, in this period in time, am experiencing where I'm just holding it in stationary, and I decided to go left, that means that the universe also simultaneously created the infinite possibility that where I went right, or I go forward, or I go back. But in this particular reality, I just choose to go left, right? So that's what means there's an infinite number of possibilities to go from here, right? Now, same time, so the quantum particle is going on coming from this path, has an infinite of possibilities to go. At the same time, just like a movie reel, right? Oops, I'm using wrong marker. There it is. At the same time, if you look into the past, there's an infinite number of possibilities that were created for this particle to get to this point of existence. So when I'm holding it here, the past that we experienced is a seemingly straight line, but I scratched it off, right? I put it in my finger, and I decide from there. But there's also an infinite amount of possibilities that got me to that spot that also coexist simultaneously. I haven't quite figured out how to work with the past, so we're going to focus mostly on the future, because future is um, easier to um, uh, change. Yeah. So there's an infinite number of possibilities for that to get here, right? So instead of just me in the past of scratching it and having it here, right? There's an alternate reality where I put my hand up like this and then did it like this, like this, like this, like this, right? So an infinite of possibilities to get you to the single point, and then an infinite amount of possibilities to go forward. The thing about the infinite possibilities going forward, that it is still stuck within the physics of our nature, of time, uh, time, consciousness, and what is possible. So for an example, right, there is from the point of the singularity. So really it's a singularity, right? Our each one of our atoms is a singularity, and it pulls all the timelines together into one. And you're kind of like zipping along this path, and so there is only a range of possibility from that particular point. Even though I know I said it is infinite on how far, once the further in the future you go, the greater the possibility. But if you were to think of current possibilities because of laws and nature within this particular realm. There is, in a sense, there is kind of a limit on the direction you can go. So obviously, the way this works is like I have a beard right now, right? I can't just jump into the reality where my head is shaved and I don't have a beard, right? I obviously going to have to go get a haircut and shave my beard and pretty myself up. So that's where you get into the limitations with this. In order to make these larger jumps, you have to look further into the future where it's a possibility, right? Like I'm obviously not going to be into the realm where I only have one arm at this point, right? Because I have both my hands. So you gotta be able to project forward into the greater the distance on where you want to take your string. You want to yeah, the greater the jump, the further in the future you have to go. So that way it catches up to you. So you're going to want to kind of, now let's talk about, that's just like the basic structure of it, right? It's pretty simplistic and yet horribly complex at the same time. So let's talk about choice. So you can see, I mean, you can determine that you have the quantum particle at the tip of your finger, right? And now you want to say, okay, an infinite possibilities in order for it to go forward, but which way do you want it to go, right? And that's when you start, thinking, well, I would like this quantum particle. I would like to have this quantum particle, if I was to blow it like that, go off my finger. I want it to blow over here and I want it to land over here, right? So let's say that this is where, did I go in the past? So I'm in the past. So let's pretend that that's the future now, okay? So, all right, you can see that you can kind of predict the trajectory of a quantum particle based on, like, energy movement. It's easier with inanimate objects, right? So you can have the pen standing there, and see, this is why I have to go in the garage to do these sometimes. Anyways, so hold on one second. Hold on. Okay. All right, sorry. Anyways, so an inanimate object, you could kind of predict where the string's going to go, right? So it's not so chaotic. So like a pen sitting on the desk, you can see it. Well, it could obviously sit there forever until I interact with it. So with that being said, there is the most highly probable future would be the line that everything's kind of currently on. It's going to be more squiggly, when it comes to us, because we're kind of chaotic and always moving around. So, but the probable future is pretty easy. Now, with our minds, we can decide to take this route here. Instead of going this way, we can go this way. And that's when you use your ability for your imagination, thought, meditation, whatever, to get to that point, right? So you actually have the ability to change the direction that that particulate is going, based on how you decide you want it to go. So that's it. That is the basics of quantum strings. I mean, you also get into where, you know, you can take the quantum string and interact with other quantum particles. You're starting to get quantum entanglement and spooky action and distance. But we'll talk, you know, we'll get into that a little bit later. So, so let's do like first on like a quantum healing, right? And I've done this when I first discovered this quantum nature. We had a person who is just a master of all things, and he's like 80 something years old, and he had prostate cancer. And we, you know, I was like, oh, you know, Rob, why don't you try a healing on him? I was like, okay, we'll try it out. And sure shit, not like a month later, he was in complete remission from prostate cancer. So it works. So let's talk about like how you would influence how I did it, right? And it's just, we'll just use, I like cancer, using cancer as an example here, because it's fairly straightforward. Right, okay. So we have our healthy cells and we have our cancer cells. These cells gotta forgive me for a while. So when it comes to something like cancer, and we're only going to talk about, like I said, forward movement, because like I said, for me, forward movement in the quantum realm is way easier than messing with things that already happened. I haven't quite wrapped my mind around that yet. But here's kind of like, so let's imagine these bigger cells, these bigger circles here would be your healthy cells, and these smaller ones in turn would be cancer cells. The quantum strings determine the path that these cells are taking. So as these healthy cells are seemingly on a normal path, the cancer cells are on a more chaotic path, right? So they're in a state of kind of like a quantum chaos, if you will, and they're going, the cell's mutated, and it's the quantum particles within that cell are now going towards the reality where they are going to keep developing into cancer. So what you're going to want to do is you want the quantum strings of, you got to isolate. So it's going to be helpful to to learn anatomy, right? Learn anatomy, learn how all this stuff kind of, you know, in the body works. So that way you can, you know that, like I said, cancer cells that are going crazy, you kind of have to know the mechanics behind why that's happening to begin with, so you can straighten it out. So the idea is to get those strings to be in harmony with the healthy ones, right? So with that comes with meditation. You really want to focus on that point, and then you have to transfer your consciousness from there to here to wherever, right? So I want to transfer my consciousness from here in my head to here, right? So I become hyper aware of that in particular area, right? I don't know how to describe conscious awareness of certain areas. So, it's just kind of put yourself here, right? So you want to put your mind to the area, and that would kind of help get your consciousness uh, uh, to that particular area. Now you want to see them out and kind of like have a quantum comb, if you will, right? For this particular thing. First, your mind for yourself has the ability to fix it on yourself, right? To fix it on others, it gets a little bit more complicated, so we won't go into that just yet. But for fix it for yourself, you want to kind of just comb these strings out in order to manifest the healing, right? So you're gonna see how they're all tangled up, and the other ones are going smooth. Just kind of push them out, and make them smooth and straight again. And theoretically, eventually, you would step into that reality where those cells made the decision to go on the path of being healthy. So that's with like healing. Now you can go into, if you go to your whole body is a entanglement of quantum strings, right? If you were just to look at yourself in the quantum realm, you would just be this mass of strings go all tumbled in together and then just bursting out from you in the direction that you're going to be going. Like eventually I'm going to get up, I'm going to get into my truck, and I'm going to drive out of here, right? So my entanglement of quantum strings is going towards that route. So if you want to start manifesting your life more, you can imagine like these strings going to the direction you want to go. So, you want to make more money, right? You got to kind of see yourself in that reality where it exists, and follow the pathways. If you learn how to follow the pathways, so if you learn how to follow the pathways, you can see the direction that you have to take in order to achieve that goal. So that's where work comes in. Obviously, right? You're gonna have to work yourself. It's not like you can just, like I said, you can't just jump. You're going to have to go along the pathway. So choose which pathway you want to go, and then you can manifest that reality for you. As you being the driving force, you can put yourself there. So that is, so that's the basics. That is the basics of quantum string theory. It's in everything. It's in all of us. You can, even us, all of us here on this call, have these quantum strings attached to each other. Now we're getting into like a quantum entanglement scenario, right, with each other, where these little strings attached to each other, and it's instant. The thought is instantaneous. So if you ever like think of somebody like, I'm thinking about Louise right now, and all of a sudden, boom, I got a phone call. It's Louise. That's quantum entanglement. So that's where my quantum strings are entangled with Louise's strings, and we'll have a cause and effect based on our thoughts with each other. So there's ways to strengthen it. There's ways to cut strings, so that way, let's say you have a parasitic toxic relationship, just imagine yourself just seeing all these strings and just cut them, right? And then you won't have that quantum entangled connection with that person anymore. That also gets into like chords. I'm sure a lot of you have heard the term of chords, negative chords, and this and that. Well, that's what that is. It's quantum entanglement with all your atoms being entangled with something else's, so it creates a cord. That's so you can also cut your quantum strings there. So what else? What else should I get into on this, Louise? If you have any ideas that you think anybody would want to know, or does anybody have any questions for me at this point? Because then I can just keep on going.
Yes. Do they look a certain way, Robert? Do they have a certain color? Anything like that? Do they vary?
Just like a translucent, like fishing, kind of, to me, it looks like fishing line, you know, kind of a translucent thread. Yeah, it's kind of like what I see. It's like a translucent string. I'm sure you can, I would stick with this, like a translucent string. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it. I see one kind of like fluttering in the air.
Yeah. You ever see the movie Donnie Darko?
Mm-mm.
Well, if you watch the movie Donnie Darko, it's kind of a psychological, weird cult classic movie. And in the movie, he would start seeing from his chest this clear, big like worm, you know, and he would follow the worm, and that worm would take him on a determined path. So that's exactly what that movie actually has one of the best visuals of like how quantum string theory in this works, right? So there's a predetermined path that you're on, and but there you have the ability to completely change that predetermined path. Yeah.
So that's Donnie Darko, like Darko.
Yeah, Donnie Darko. It's a weird one. It's a weird movie, but it does have that. It does have it in it. Have that concept in it in the movie. It's the only movie I've ever seen that kind of shows it.
Where do the strings originate?
The creation of the universe, because they go back all the way to the beginning. Matter can't really be destroyed, so each individual particle goes back to the beginning of creation. So at the beginning of creation, you know, our particulates coming from a central source, you can actually track back each individual particle to the creation of the universe.
So for instance, we're looking at our quantum strings.
Yeah.
So our quantum strings are connected to us?
Correct. Yeah. The ones of his body. It has to do with the physical nature. We're not talking so much the spiritual nature of reality. We're talking about the physical nature of reality.
So this is Dawn. Do these strings actually connect our atoms together? Is that how it works, like a web?
No, that each kind of, but it's what connects our atoms together is gravity and magnetism. Those are the two things that connect us. So just think of the strings as the webs, which would be the highways that they're on. So if you're on a road, this is the road that your particles are traveling. But what holds them actually together is magnetism and gravity.
Okay, actually, I wasn't thinking of what held them together as much as I was thinking of what, I don't know how to say this, what allows them to interact. I envision communication paths. Warning, I'm in IT. So I envision communication paths between these, between the atoms.
Oh, that was broken up. Pretty bad on my.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. Let me see if I can gather. So communicate. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's definitely how our quantum particles communicate with each other. Yeah, totally.
That makes sense. So basically, this is the network infrastructure of our the network connectivity of our atomic infrastructure. Blah.
Exactly.
Can't
That's,
talk today.
no, that's
Yeah,
fine.
okay.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Yeah, yeah. It's how our atoms talk to each other. So that's we're getting into. You're getting into what's called quantum entanglement, and then spooky action at a distance. Yeah, where I
I'm
can.
fascinated by that.
Yeah, it's very interesting. That's when you start getting into manifestation, right? So spooky action at a distance means that my thoughts have the ability to interact with atoms on the other side of the universe. They've actually done proven this recently. I can't remember the exact nature behind the experiment, but they were able to actually capture spooky action at a distance just recently, where one atom uh, across like an insane amount of distance changed, because the one atom connected to one atom on the complete other side of the world. We were able to change with this atom changing. You were able to change this atom. So that's, yeah, spooky action at a distance. You're able to um, change the nature of atoms not connected to you, based on thought and manifestation. That's how you get into like I would like a glass banana to come into my reality, right? And then so you just picture a glass banana. Well, somewhere in the world a glass banana exists, right? And through time and through the nature of the universe, eventually it'll bring a glass banana, into your reality.
Well, this is Dawn again. This is how I also picture telepathy to work.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Telepathy, and not just between two people, but it can what's the word I'm looking for? It's collaborative thinking,
Oh, yeah.
manifestation of reality, so to speak, because everything exists around us in a rather in a matter which most people can agree, at least on the basics, because we all agree at some subconscious level that this is the
Oh, drop. You muted out.
way it is. No, I'm still here. I don't know what part got missed, but
Just the last
it's
bit. Okay, so you're
yeah, the part group consciousness and
collective
group agreement of manifestation.
Yeah, yeah. The structure of the world that we're experiencing in society, if you will, is manifested by the collective consciousness, because we all believe that that's the way it's supposed to be. Yeah, yeah, totally.
Boom.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And if we were to get every single human being on this planet to realize this, and we're able to all stand together, hold hands, and sing Kumbaya, then we can usher this planet into a complete golden era. But because everybody believes in a certain structure, then we are inherently bound to that same structure of the group consciousness. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Is this not, though, what we the evolutionary process we are engaged in at this point in time? The Earth is in flux right now, and not
Yeah.
just as a physical organism, but as a I'm thinking of the word gestalt, because everything's connected to everything else, not even just at an atomic level, but of course starting there and at a string level. But we're all connected. We're
That's
all
right. Yeah.
connected.
Yeah, and this is just the structure and how we are all connected. It's all in this quantum realm.
This is really cool. I was missing just a few pieces of this understanding, and you helped fill in some gaps for me. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, yeah. Definitely start studying, like, on how because our scientists have actually figured out quite a bit. It's just that because science is based our science is based in the physical. They're missing the part with the mind. They can't figure out that it's the mind that creates the reality. Yeah, they haven't quite got there yet.
They're almost there. They're
Oh,
almost there.
oh,
The double slit experiment, the different
yeah.
quantum thought experiments that have been done, and they're ongoing. They're almost there. This is why we have a few rogue physicists, quantum physicists, who are embracing the biocentric universe theory.
Yeah, yeah. How cool is that? How cool is that? We're almost there. We're almost there. Yeah. Yeah. How cool is that?
Very.
It's just a matter of everybody else in the world catching up to this. You know? Oh man. Yeah. But at least we can influence our universe around us doing this, you know. But we're still stuck into the nature of the mass consciousness. But I think it is possible to separate from this somehow, and that's when you start getting into like a samadhi, and you start being able to actually learning how to change the quantum mechanics of just thought, you know, and like actually being able to walk through walls. And technically this part of it, it's possible where you can literally just walk through walls, or instead of having a glass banana come to me through the laws of physics, I can just go, all right, I got a glass banana, right? And now, boom, it's a glass pineapple, right? That is possible. It's just I haven't got there yet. I think, and that's when you get into like you're gonna have to an equal exchange. Okay, so there's also an equal exchange. This is important. There's also an equal exchange of energy for goods and services, right? The law of equal exchange. So you have to put in the energy in order to and get to that reality. So like I need to go to the grocery. I want a sandwich, right? So I need to put in the energy to get the sandwich. I got to get in the car. I could drive to the store, get the stuff, right? So I have to put the energy in. So there's also when it comes to changing, you need to put the energy into it. So the way I put energy into this, right, is through I do all my work through the heart, right? Everything through the heart. I feel the heart is really good source for manifesting, right? So the energy that I put in would be physical energy. So that's when you get into your the energy to do this with my fingers, right? It's inside your body, getting into like chi and stuff, right? So I breathe in when I'm thinking about changing a quantum stream. I breathe in, and then on my breath in, I manifest that feeling of love. So love would be the energy that I use to change the direction of these strings, right? So with a loving intent, and then on the breath out, that's when you do breath in, bring in energy, and then on the breath out, you know, change your reality. Because now on the breath out, you're releasing the energy into the universe. So with bigger things, you need more energy. Yeah, for bigger change, more energy is required.
Hi, Robert. It's
Hey.
Moduli.
Hey, Jelly, how are you?
Hey, good. Yeah, I liked I liked what you said about the walking through walls thing, because when I listened to the, you know, like in, you know, what you said about the atoms and everything's energy and everything's atoms. So like literally we should be able to, you know, go through doors or go through walls, because it's, if we like did not see ourselves as like something separate, and that it would be like all energy. But I think it has to do with belief systems and mass consciousness. Also, something that you were touching on was, well, we're all just, you know, have this belief system that a door is a separate thing that you have to open, and that, you know, people just can't walk through them or like energize through them. But you know, I am working on that too, is the belief systems, and that hey, if we got a bunch of people to believe we could just energize through walls,
Yeah. Yeah.
then it could happen, because we'll be putting the strings out there.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah. Hey, even in religious text, I'm most familiar with the Bible because I come from kind of a Christian background, and even in the Bible, yeah, I hate going there, but even in the Bible, Jesus says that, if, as long, the whole walking on water thing, you just got to believe that you can do it. You can move that mountain if you want to. You just got to believe that you can do it. So yeah, it's totally all based on beliefs and what we can and cannot achieve. Totally. I'm pretty sure that's in all of the ancient text, religious text too, somewhere in there, hidden away. That's our belief systems. It's creating our reality. Don't tell anybody this, but that's one of the reasons why they exist. So it changes our belief structures to believe a certain way, but we won't get into that.
We already know.
Oh, thank God for you guys. Anyways, anything else?
Well, I just really like listening to you, so thanks for all the, yeah, I like learning more about it.
Thank you. Yeah, I had to go through some pretty insane trials and tribulations to learn about all this stuff. Yeah, it was pretty intense, but I'm over it now. So yeah, I love sharing it. That's for sure. Yeah, that is for sure. Unfortunately, I got into the thing where I was forced to learn all this stuff in order to keep going. It's like the universe gave me an ultimatum: either figure it out or good night. So I figured it out. I was forced to figure it out. Anything else you wanted to touch on, Louise? Any questions from you or anybody else?
This is Dawn. I guess I'm just curious why we lost our conscious awareness of this knowledge, because if you go back through not what is claimed to be the course and beginning of human history, but what the real one was, which they just haven't, our science, is that we lost this innate knowledge because we had it to begin with.
Yeah, I think, to be completely honest with you guys, I feel that we are on an occupied planet, right? Something a long time ago in our history, there was an invasion, if you will, of regenerative ETs. That you're going to get into why in the world is it that we live in a universe teeming with intelligent life, yet our entire society doesn't believe it exists, even though that it does? Why is that? Well, if you were to think that we were an occupied world, then wouldn't it not, let's say that we were occupied the devil. No, wouldn't it be the greatest trick of the devil is to make us believe that he does not exist, right? So by us believing they don't exist, that means that beings that are far beyond any comprehension, we're talking about things that are, a race that is 10 billion years old, right? They're basically God beings, and they only care about making sure stars don't explode, right? That destroys entire worlds. So things like that could interact, because they can't interact with humanity on a full, as long as it's our free will choice to believe they don't exist. So when sometime in the past when we were conquered, the ETs made themselves as the gods, right? So we worshiped them as gods. And the fact that we worship negative beings as gods is not necessarily a good thing. So that's why when you go throughout history, the rise and fall of civilizations, not only do the entire structure of society is completely changed, but the beliefs in the gods change too. And what's happening there is, even from the beginning, when supposedly the gods originally came and created this form, and we started worshiping them and stuff, we would discover the truth about the true nature of the gods, right? And so in order for them to keep masking, they have to keep changing their identity, right? Go from the Egyptian gods and then the Greek gods, and then all of a sudden you have your singular god with demons and angels. It's all the same thing. It's just they just keep changing their names over and over again, so that way we keep worshiping them. Yeah. And I think that's kind of like where the knowledge was lost, because they don't want humanity to figure it out, because if we figured it out, then we ourselves would become gods, and they can no longer keep us in this prison for our minds and our souls. So that's why I think it's been lost, and it happened a very, 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 very long time ago.
Does anyone have any other questions for Robert or comments or anything? We're still recording, everybody. I figured keep it going. What I'd like to ask, Robert, if anybody else wants to say anything, please feel free. But what I wanted to ask is, so there's a future pathway, there's a future that I'm on a trajectory towards, and that's what I want. If you could give a brief description, a brief way of how I go and get, or how I connect with that future quantum string. Let's just call it the future quantum string of I'm in the realm. I live in the realm.
Boy. Oh boy. I mean, to change the big thing, where you're going to go, direction. So you would have to really get down and deep and meditate, and you're going to have to follow along. Okay, see that version of yourself off into the distance. So obviously, hell, if you wanted to achieve it like tomorrow, for an example, obviously you probably won't be able to do it tomorrow, but let's say in tomorrow you want to experience this, you have to be able to put yourself, Mega. You'd have to put yourself into the put yourself into that.
Hey, let me show you the flower shirt I got.
It's okay. Anyways, you want to experience that. Let's say tomorrow, meditate and put yourself there, and then kind of like you want to put yourself in that spot where it already exists, and then look backwards. Okay, in this part, okay, maybe we'll do. This is the way it works. Put yourself into that future self, right? Like literally be there. Put your mind into that future self, and then start looking backwards in time. So here's from at that point. This is the future, and then the past. You try to figure out the path that got you there, and then from this point, move yourself along that path. Which means you do whatever work it takes to get there. Which something tells me you're already doing it. So just keep going on the path that you're on, because that's what you want to manifest. As long as you stay on that path, then that would be possible.
Gotcha.
something tells me as of right now, you have to die to get there, in full form. But outside of that, you're gonna have to do a complete cellular transmutation on a cellular level to be able to take yourself there. So however it is energetically, you can manipulate your own cells to become that energetic, where you can jump in between the third and the fifth and sixth dimension, then you would achieve that.
Yes. So it is. Thank you. I see it. Because you're right, I'm already doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing it.
Yeah. You claimed it, like this is what I want to experience, and it's what you've always wanted to experience, and you're doing exactly what it takes to get there.
Yeah. And I'm there all the time anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And even this physical form is always there in its way. And even when David would go there, he'd always see me there. He's like, "You're always here." I'm like, mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just to bring the physical body there, that'd take a lot of energy. So whatever you do to get your energy level on the cellular level up, then it should be achievable. I think that would be samadhi, to achieve samadhi and to achieve perfection, which is extremely difficult in this Western setting. Yeah.
And it really seems like it would be a drop of the body.
Yeah.
You know, like they do in samadhi, like they do in the rainbow body. The body transforms and they let go of it.
Yeah.
Because where the realm is very ethereal and more formless than form.
Mm-hmm. Unless you're there, from my understanding of it, based on other teachers that I've learned from, it's like, especially with like ETs that come from fourth, fifth density, right? When they manifest into 3D, they have a physical form. So the same, if we were to go to fourth and fifth density, it would be as real and as physical as this, but it would be less
Dense.
less bound by the laws of third dimensional physics.
Right. So how do we cut off the third dimensional physics connected to us?
You got to get the energy in. Yeah, got to get the energy in.
And also, wouldn't it be also to cut the quantum strings connected to us that are binding us here?
Nah, I just change them. I wouldn't cut it. I wouldn't cut them that bond us here. It's more like changing a train on a tracks. So look down the road and switch the tracks over. And by switching the tracks, you got to put the energy in by changing yourself, and then it'll automatically go into the direction you wanted to achieve. But I'm still working on that myself. I mean, theoretically, yeah, it's totally possible. It's just a matter of figuring out how to get there. Or I'd be walking,
getting there and doing reverse.
Yeah. Or I'd walk through that wall right now and say, fuck this, I'm out. Pardon my French, but that's totally how I'd approach it if I was able to do that already.
Does anyone have any questions or comments or anything before we close her up? This is recorded.
This is Barbara. Oops.
Yes, please.
No, I just wanted to mention when I was a teenager, I knew that I had this friend, and I always thought he was the coolest guy because we'd go places, and we might sit somewhere, and we might be looking at a wall, and he goes, "We can get through that wall, without breaking in. We can, he was just trying to let me know, hey, we can get through that wall." And I was like, wow, that's really cool, and I believed him, but at the time I was like, how does that happen? And so that was really cool that, Robert, you're talking about that. And thank you.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, it's totally possible. I mean, there's an infinite amount of space. right? The atoms are all vibrating to a specific resonance, right? It's just a matter of figuring out how to change the resonance of this form and that form, and then just pass right through each other. It's theoretically it's possible. Yeah, totally.
Become no thing. Be no thing. Be Shiva. Anybody else before we wrap her up? All right, I'm going to go ahead and shut down the recording. Thank you, Robert.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun.